would be nice if there was a one-size-fits-all path to success, wouldn't it? An individual's blueprint for success is as unique as their fingerprints are. I'm Gary Cornwell, president of Galactic Performance Solutions. As someone who didn't come from much, I had to come a long way to get where I am today. In the end, I did find my way, and I want to help you find yours too. I may not have the exact answers for your circumstance and how to build a successful life, but what I know for sure is that you have those answers within yourself. Welcome to Beyond the Blueprint, the podcast that focuses on helping you become the best, brightest, and most financially secure version of yourself. Hello, and welcome to Beyond the Blueprint, the podcast where we help you to unlock your potential in your own personal way, as well as taking a look at bold steps towards a thriving life. Today, we're going to talk about believing in yourself, investing in growth, and putting in the work to achieve both financial and emotional success. So let's start off with this. We all have different lives that we're leading. We all have different challenges that we face throughout our lives. We all start off in different places. So a little bit about me. The way that I started off in life was in a very loving family. I grew up in Arkansas, in a little town outside of North Little Rock, to a single mother. So I had an extended family and my grandparents that had a lot to do with my child rearing. Like I said, a very loving family, very lucky to be raised the way that I was, but that came with some challenges. So my family, there was no room for planning to thrive. We survived, for lack of a better term. Everybody in my family worked some kind of a job that was attuned to factory work. Let me start off by saying there's absolutely nothing wrong with factory work. The thing that bothered me about it, it was the same thing, doing the same thing over and over again. For example, one of the jobs my mother had when I was young was she was one of the people on the line at a factory that would actually insert the spokes into a hub that ultimately would become a wheel that would go into a bicycle. Again, nothing wrong with that. It's very acceptable, very noteworthy. Somebody's got to do it, right? We all need wheels for different things like that. It's not a bad job. There's nothing wrong with that job. But it was doing the same thing over and over again. If you do that and you enjoy it, but you take the outcome of that, your salary, your paycheck, and you do things with it, that's great. My family, though, was always taught that money was something to be spent and that a job was somewhere where you were paid to complete a task and do nothing more. And so there was never any thought about doing anything bigger, having things that were available to you to invest in. Dreaming bigger was frowned upon in my family, not because of a lack of love, because that was what was drilled into the minds of my family for generations. Because of that, I was taught to doubt that there was anything other than factory line work for me in the future, or maybe driving a tractor for a living, which it's funny that it comes full circle because as much as I wanted to get away from that in my youth, one of the things that I enjoy the most today is driving a tractor and just relaxing and seeing the physical outcome of the work that you're doing. I was taught that thinking beyond putting those spokes into a wheel over and over and over again was just for people who started off life with a silver spoon in their mouth. There was no way out for people like me. I'm throwing up air quotes now. People like me. That might have been the way that you started out. Maybe you did have more of a silver spoon in your mouth, but you don't know where to go from there. Like I said, everybody starts in a different place. I thought I was doomed to a life of chasing my tail and having constant feelings of being less than. But I also was bound and determined that I wasn't going to let anything stop me. I was going to accomplish my dreams no matter what it took. So again, don't know where your life comes from. I don't know where you started. I don't know where you're at right now. But what I do know is that you have keys inside you to unlock potential that you still don't know that you have. So in this episode, we're going to cover a few things. First, we're going to talk about why believing in yourself is the foundation for success. We're also going to talk about strategically investing in yourself first so that you're able to grow financially and emotionally. And finally, why hard work and persistence are the secret sauce to achieving your goals. So, number one, believing in yourself. It's not just a feel-good mantra. It's the foundation for taking action. Because without self-belief, even the best opportunities can slip away. So whether you think you can or whether you think you can't, you're right. You have to start telling yourself and you have to start believing that you can. It might not be immediate. It's going to come with work. It's going to come with training. It's going to come with sacrifice, to be honest with you. But you've probably heard it say that, said in a way such that not being successful is painful, but working your way to success is painful. Which pain do you want at the end of the day? And what do you want the outcome to be? So the psychology of self-belief is that you have to rely on yourself. You're always going to have a team around you. The people who perform the best have a good team around them. But the core has to come from you and has to come from within inside you. Nothing is easy. Nothing comes without sacrifice. But again, it comes back to yourself first, but then your team. So I have a friend who he's a YouTuber, and I didn't know much about YouTube until recently when I got introduced and kind of shown behind the curtains how it works for them. So the reason I bring this up is some people might think that there's a quick fix. There's a fast way to get rich. There's an easy way to get rich. There's an easy way to get successful. I'll just be an influencer. I'll just be online. It's funny that I'm talking about that right now. To me, it's funny anyway, and that I'm talking about it in a podcast. But that's not what my podcast is geared towards. It's geared towards helping you. I'm not looking for that get rich or that once in a lifetime or one in a million, strike it while it's hot type thing in YouTube. Anyway, my friend who is a YouTuber originally became friends with his father and then met him through the father. It was through business deals, some commercial real estate that I'm involved in. But the thing that was interesting to me about it was because I'm of an older generation, let's say, I always looked at the YouTubers and I thought, this is crazy the way that some of them are fabulously successful. It seems to happen almost instantaneously and immediately. And other people kind of struggle at it. What was the difference? And what I found very quickly once getting shown behind the curtain is my YouTuber friend has several hundred people that actually work for him. He's one of the top YouTubers within a certain genre inside YouTube. So he's done well. He's done extremely well. But it's the hundreds of people that are behind him, that are writing scripts, that are building props, that are doing all these kinds of things that were a huge part of making him a success. Now, back to the self-belief. It would have never happened for any of those couple hundred people in this scenario if he didn't believe in himself first and if he didn't start down the road and take a chance on himself because he believed in himself. I struggle on how much detail to share because I don't want anybody to necessarily figure out who it is that I'm talking about. But let's just say he had a different path that he was probably going to go down in the beginning. And he made a deal with his parents that if this YouTube thing didn't work out for him, he was going to go down that other path. And they kind of put a time limit on it. And he put in the work. He believed in himself. He put in the work. He studied. He learned. He figured out the algorithm. He made it go. And it is now not only his full-time career, but it is an actual company where he employs all those other people. And it's an actual full-time career for all of them. So I asked him, how did this come about for you? He said that the first thing he had to do is he had to picture himself as being successful. The second thing he did was write it down, which I thought was interesting. It's something that I do a lot. I believe there's power in writing down your goals. There's power in writing down your strategy. I don't know what it is. I don't know what causes that power, but I know it exists. I typically will write down short-term goals, medium-term, and long-term goals. With him being a younger guy and online and technical and all that kind of good stuff, it did surprise me to hear him say that he writes it down as well. And so it just kind of pointed out to me that across success, there are things that are common amongst everybody. Now, not everybody has to write it down. For me, that's what works. Maybe that's part of what will work for you. When you see it written down, you start to believe it. The more you say it to yourself, the more positive self-talk, replacing words when you're talking about something. So replace I can't with I'll learn how, or I can't with I will. All of these little things that build up to, and I don't want to sound like I'm preaching some, I don't know, guru, like it's all about the power of the mind. It's not all about that. It's a big part of it. The power of the mind is where it starts. You have to do the work once you get the mindset right, but you have to get the mindset right first. You also have to surround yourself with believers. I had a teacher when I was in the 3rd grade. Her name was Mrs. Menzies. Mrs. Menzies was the first person that I can remember in my life that I knew believed in me outside of my family. Again, 3rd grade teacher. I'm a 55-year-old man as of today. I can remember very vividly some of the things that she said to me, some of the ways that she treated me. It gave me a boost in confidence. It made me want to succeed in order to be able to give her belief in me life. And so I worked harder because of that. She's not the only one. I've been extremely, extremely lucky in my life to have people believe in me. It's more important to believe in yourself, but it is an easier road if you have those around you who believe in you as well. You need a supportive network. Actually, you need to surround yourself with people who are, I don't want to say like-minded might not be the way to put it. You could have different ideas as far as politics, religion. You don't have to be like-minded in that way, but you do need to be around people that are not only trying to better themselves, but that want to see you better yourself. They're there to share open ideas. They want to hear your ideas. And if you've ever heard the saying, I hope you have, but if you haven't, I'll say it to you now. If you show me your friends, I will show you your future. You really are kind of the average or the median of the 5 people you spend the most time with. So if you're spending time with people that are wanting to just consume online content and nothing else, and it's not for a reason to grow or to learn, that's what you'll tend to do. But if you're around people that are even somebody that's doing the same thing, they're consuming content, but they are doing it for a different reason, you're apt to do the same thing. Hopefully that's to learn something. So you believe in yourself first, but then you have to take action. I just mentioned that some of your learning can come online. However that happens, you need to start educating yourself. And it doesn't necessarily have to be about any specific topic to start with. So as an example, you might be interested in real estate, whether that's commercial real estate or single family home, multifamily. There's a lot of stuff like that that's online these days. You might be really interested in that. My suggestion to you would be you need to learn everything you can about that. But what you need to learn first is how to structure your learning, how to structure your day, how to develop habits that are going to support you learning, whether that's that you are doing your main job, your day-to-day job, obviously during the day, and then you're doing your research and you're studying and you're planning and your content consumption at night. That's how I started off, to be honest with you. I had a normal job. I say a normal job. I had a 9 to 5, an employee job for years. I still have one. But I would do other things at night to try to see how I could educate myself. How could I motivate myself? How could I do other things? That brings me to a good point that I should have probably already mentioned. I'm giving you my opinion. This is not necessarily your road. These are things I would like for you to consider. Your main job should always come first. And sometimes that gets difficult because the other things that you might want to be involved in are exciting. There are things that you are interested in, maybe even more interested in than what your full-time day job is. But the full-time day job is what is going to enable you to be able to do these things. To me, you can't take your eye off of that ball. To me, that's when you cut back on your expenses. You take the additional income that comes from your day job, no matter how much it is. it doesn't have to be a lot of money. Everybody thinks that you've got to have these high paid, high powered jobs to do something. That's not the case. When I started my journey, I was right out of the military. I was an assistant dispatcher for a trucking company, and I barely made enough to survive. But what I did do is figure out a way to survive on even less so that I could take that additional, I say additional money, to some people it wouldn't have been additional money. They would have spent it. They would have gone out, they would have partied, they would have done this, they would have done that. I took it and actually started investing it in different things and started a couple of businesses back then in my 20s as well. So focusing on your day job has to be the priority, even over the learning and everything else. You have time for the other stuff. Don't neglect your day job in order to do this because it'll end up biting you in the end. So what do you do during the time that you're not doing your day job? You need to focus on, like I said, first teaching yourself how to study if you don't know how. Giving yourself a process of how does it work well for you? Again, for me, writing things down is extremely important. I also consume and read, and I read very slow, by the way. When I read something in my head, I basically read at the same speed as if I was speaking. So it takes me a little longer to read a book or to read an article or things like that. But because of the way I do it, I understand and comprehend and hold a lot of that knowledge better than if I was to try to do it quickly. So find out what works for you, but then start doing things with it, whether that's taking online classes so that you can get certifications that you may or may not need for whatever it is that you're going to focus on to try to succeed financially. I will also say, stepping back again, that even though I think your primary job is something that you can't lose focus in, you will never be able to earn your way into being financially independent. And so what I mean by that is you must invest. How you invest, that depends on your risk tolerance level. That depends on your knowledge. It depends on your beliefs, but you must invest. You have to. There's no way to become financially independent and comfortable without investing. It just doesn't happen. I don't care if you're a high paid doctor and you live below your means. If you put that money into a savings account and you don't do anything with it, it will lose its buying power over time because of inflation. You have to invest. And so teaching yourself how to do those things, whether that's certifications or whatever it is you're going to get involved in, my suggestion is over time that you are letting yourself being involved in multiple things. You need to start building a personal brand, whether that's through a LinkedIn or social platforms. You need people to know who you are because you need other people to believe in you so that you can get deals done, whatever capacity that deal is or what that looks like. And in future podcasts, we'll probably focus on certain vertical markets, at least ones that I have experience in, and give you some of the ins and outs of what I've experienced. I also intend on having some people on to talk with me about other things that I know nothing about. And so again, I'm telling you my way. That doesn't mean this is your way. You may be focused on something completely different than I have anything to do with, but it's the foundation of all of this that is similar. But again, it's your blueprint. We got to build it your way so that it works for you. So as far as learning goes, think of it this way. Every dollar you spend on learning and growing your skills is like planting seeds. And the more seeds you plant, the bigger the yield and the bigger returns in the future. So learn as much as you can and do it and never stop learning, ever. I had a group of college students that came in and toured our company. This has been a few years ago now. They were accounting students. And once they were finished kind of getting exposed to the different departments within the organization, they came together at the end of the day in our conference room and kind of wanted to pick my brain a little bit and some of the other senior managers as well. And they wanted to know a couple of things from us that we thought they should know. And I remember very vividly what my two things that I thought they should remember are. Number one, never make the mistake of thinking that life and business and your career is not a competition, because it is every single day. Whether that's in your 9 to 5 job, making sure that you are doing top level work, that you're on time, that you're concise with what your information is. You're competing for the next step up the ladder every single day. My second thing I told them to always remember is to never, ever stop learning. Ever. I don't care how old you are. I don't care how much things change. You can never, ever stop learning, because the day you stop learning is the day that it all starts to go away. So you got to develop habits as well that are going to support all of these things. We've mentioned habits a couple of times already. Habits like journaling or practicing gratitude. All of these things will foster a resilient mindset. Practicing gratitude for me is huge. I've had several situations in my life that are less than desirable that have occurred over time. One of the ways that I've always dealt with it is that I've always told myself that no matter what's going on for me right now, no matter how much it sucks, there's somebody that's got it worse. So I should be grateful for what I do have, not bothered by what I don't. And on the times when there's not necessarily something going wrong in my life, that's when you can really focus on gratitude. Just be thankful for everything and say that. Openly say it out loud. Be grateful. Focus on that. You will be shocked at how much even that will change your life, because the things that you focus on in your life are what manifest themselves. And I'm not, I've heard a lot about memes and reels and YouTube videos and stuff like I manifested this, and maybe that's great. And maybe that works. I don't know. I've not necessarily tried that route or meditating on different things like that. I'm not saying it doesn't work. Maybe it does. Maybe that's what works for you. But I do know that what you focus on in your life is what grows. So the grass is not always greener on the other side of the fence. The grass is greener where you water it. So water the gratitude. You'll be surprised at how much that helps you. You will have to set boundaries to protect your energy, to allow you to focus on goals. So those boundaries might be boundaries against people wanting you to participate in things that are not conducive to your goals. It might be boundaries to yourself. This is one for me, because I still learn every day. I still consume content every single day, and I learn about different areas of business that I may or may not want to be involved in. I'm at the point in my life where things are stable as what I'm involved in and what I feel like I know, but I always want something new. I always want to build something new. So I'm still learning every single day. So one of my boundaries is I have a cutoff of when I allow myself to, or I force myself rather than allow. I force myself to put everything away and go to sleep. You'd be surprised how much sleep helps you. Sometimes it's hard for us. Sometimes it's hard to turn off our brain. It's certainly hard to turn off your brain when you're staring at a screen or you're reading a book. So no matter what content, no matter how you're consuming it, no matter how I'm consuming it, I cut it off. I'm done. Put it down. I'll start again tomorrow. I do my best, and it doesn't always happen. And, give yourself some grace. There are times when I go down a rabbit hole and I don't even know how I got here at that rabbit hole, but give yourself some grace. It's going to happen sometimes. It's not what you do every day. It's what you do most days. Focus on that. Don't beat yourself up. Set those boundaries. Invest time in meaningful relationships, things that are going to support you, support your growth. Again, that comes back to be around people. They don't even have to be moving in the same direction as far as a vertical market. Coming back to, let's talk about agriculture. I'm involved on a small scale within agriculture. Being around other people that are involved in something that is not agriculture, but they're building, is still going to help me on my agriculture side. I'm going to see things that they're doing, ways that they're focusing. How are they borrowing money if they need to borrow money in order to acquire an asset? How are they doing that? What can I learn from that? Rather than hanging around with somebody who says, hey, you know what? I finished my shift. It's Friday at 5. I'm going to go drink. No, not that there's anything wrong with a drink. I enjoy a drink myself occasionally, but that's not going to be my focus. And I'm not going to hang out with people that is their focus, because all that's even if it doesn't bring me down, it's not going to add anything to what it is that I'm trying to do. So make sure that you're around people and developing relationships that are going to support you and teach you. You can find mentors everywhere. You can find mentors and people that work for you. Just because you're the boss doesn't mean you're always the mentor. Hopefully you're a mentor in one way, but maybe there's somebody that works for you as your mentor in another way. So be around people that you find interesting and that you respect. So when you invest in your emotional well-being, you show up as your best self in every day, in every aspect of your life. So it all kind of rolls together. Being around people you respect that are teaching you helps you set that mindset, practicing the gratitude, all of that comes together. So success, one thing we need to keep in mind, and we talked about it a little bit earlier, success rarely comes easy. And it's often the extra hours and the extra effort that separate the good from the great. Okay. It's not just the extra effort and the extra hours. It's the lack of giving up. The biggest difference between those that succeed and those that try but don't succeed is that those who try and don't succeed give up too early. If you've gone 10 iterations with something and it hasn't worked out right and you give up, it might have been the 12th iteration that was going to hit. I'm not kidding you when I say stick it out. Now, there is a time when you need to pull the plug. If it's becoming detrimental or harmful, you need to figure out something else that's going to help you meet your goals, that are going to help you succeed, whether that's financially or personally or whatever your goals are. But if you've got the right formula and it just hasn't hit yet because the timing's not right, just don't give up. You've never lost until you give up, ever. There's that quote that says, things going over and over and again, but it's not over until I win. Keep going. Don't give up. You may have to adjust, but don't give up. And remember that it doesn't happen fast. The fastest way to get rich is slow. Because if you get rich fast, you're playing roulette and you put it all on black and you hit, more times than not, it's going away as fast as it got there. The fastest way and the best way to get rich is slow. But you'll be surprised how it's going slow, it's going slow, and then all of a sudden, wait a minute, things have changed. It's better than I even thought it was going to be. Consistency, focus. I can't harp on consistency enough. Consistency will be your guiding light when motivation fails you. Consistency, 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 consistency. You've got to have it. So remember, it's not going to happen overnight. And there's no guaranteed route. You don't have to go to college. I'm a believer in college if it's going to support something that you need that degree for. But I don't think that it necessarily that you have to be. I know a lot of plumbers that never went to college that are extremely successful. They structured their business in a way that made sense for them. So I have a friend that doesn't have a college degree, but he learned how to sell. And so he took that ability to sell and he took that ability to create relationships that were meaningful and long-term. And over time, through growth and planning and learning, he now owns a private equity fund and he makes tens of millions of dollars a year. He has 2 private planes. He doesn't let it show. You probably wouldn't know if you just met him, at a restaurant or someplace like that. He doesn't flaunt it. He doesn't look down on people. He remembers where he came from. He's one of the most successful people that I know in my life that I have a personal relationship. But because of how he did it, the way he did it, whatever in the world he wants to do now, he can do. He continues to work. He's a little bit older than me. He continues to work because he enjoys it. He structured it the way that he wants it. And it's something that he absolutely 1000% enjoys. Now, this brings me to a point that I wasn't necessarily even going to talk about in this podcast, but we'll talk about it a lot over the course of different podcasts that we put out. I mentioned that my friend, he makes tens of millions of dollars a year and more than that, probably. Way more successful than I am financially. But that's okay. That doesn't mean we can't be friends. That doesn't mean that I treat him any differently or he looks at me differently because I don't have that level of financial success. We have to remember that we can't compare ourselves to other people and say, well, I hit this level, but That's not any good because I'm not at this other person's level. Well, that doesn't matter. There's a saying out there, and if you haven't heard it before, you're going to hear me say it a lot. And it goes basically, comparison is the thief of joy. Be confident, be happy in the things that you succeeded in. One of the things I tell myself a lot, because for me, it's never enough. You could always do more, me personally. But I also temper that with remembering that that kid that was in Miss Menzies' third grade class would be pretty impressed with where this guy turned out. I may have wanted more. I may want more for my kids, hoping that they learn from me and that they take what I have started to figure out, because I don't have it all figured out, but I've started figuring it out. Hopefully they take it and they do more with it. But the kid that was in that third grade class with Miss Menzies, as much as she believed in me then, I think she'd be surprised now. And I'm proud of that. I wish she could see me now, because a lot of what I've been able to do started in that third grade classroom. So I don't let comparison be the thief of my joy. So let's break down a couple of myths that I want to make sure that you guys are not falling into. The misconception of instant success, whether it's viral fame or whatever. Don't try to find that. Try to find the boring thing that nobody else necessarily wants to do, but you're consistent at it, and you can turn it into something that is not only something you can be proud of, but that other people might look at and find inspiration in what it is that you're doing. Discipline and consistency are often more important than talent alone. You can have talent, but if you don't have consistency and you don't have discipline, which if you have to have one or the two, have the consistency. Discipline helps, but discipline comes and goes. Consistency is a mindset. Okay. Motivation comes and goes. You can tie discipline and consistency closer together than you can motivation. Motivation is the part that really kind of wavers a lot. But as long as you're consistent and you're disciplined, you're going to come out ahead. I'm telling you, if you've ever played sports, you've heard the saying that hard work beats talent when talent fails to work hard. And it's true. So get after it. Hopefully you are talented in what it is that you're going to try to do. But at the end of the day, even if you're not, as long as you're consistent, you're going to be fine. So what are some things that you need to employ to be able to manage this type of growth? You're going to have time management skills. You're going to have to develop them your way. Not everybody's is the same. Whether that's that you like to use calendars, different prioritization techniques. There's one out there called the Eisenhower Matrix. Go look that up if you want more information on it. I tend to use calendars. For me, if it's not on my calendar, it doesn't exist. I also, because technology is as good as it is now, I just talk to my phone and tell it to put a reminder at a certain time on my calendar to either check on something or do something. For me, calendars work really well. Some people like physical manual books that they write things into, whether planner or things like that. That doesn't work for me. I lose them. I leave them laying around. So I need something that is not going to be able to be left somewhere. I've gotten rid of notepads, for example, and I write my notes on an iPad now, because I'm much less likely to lose that iPad than I am a notepad. So find what works for you, but you got to develop the time management skills and the learning skills that are going to be able to help you meet your goals. Again, whether that's financial goals we're talking about, which is what we've really kind of focused on in this episode, or emotional goals that you're looking at. It all boils down to being present and focusing on something. You have to be deliberate. That's my word. You have to be deliberate about the things that you are trying to do. You got to set goals, break big goals down into manageable tasks. The best way to eat an elephant is one bite at a time. So take the little bites that will lead up to the goals. Don't forget to write down the big goals. Writing them down helps. But if you just write down, I want $1 million, that's great. How are you going to get it? What are the steps that it's going to take you between where you're sitting right now and where you have the $1 million that are going to be able to do that? So break the big goals down into manageable tasks and do the things in the right order that make the most sense. We'll talk about that more in other episodes. Celebrate your wins along the way. Whether those wins are in reducing your overhead on things or cutting your costs of your daily living so that you have more money to either invest in the stock market or into a business that you want to start. Celebrate and recognize every milestone along the way, no matter how small, because you're going to put a lot of effort into this. You're going to put a lot of energy into this. You deserve to congratulate yourself when things go well. So, summarization of some of the points we talked about today: believe in yourself, believe in your potential. If you don't believe in yourself, the very first thing you got to do, put everything else aside and figure out what it's going to take for you to develop that belief. You can do it. I know very few people that I've met, and I wouldn't even say that they can't. It's that they won't. You can do it. I am convinced of it. Figure out ways to invest in your growth. A lot of times in the beginning, that's learning, whether that's books. I'm a big believer in books, and I'll go over a list, and maybe in a podcast or two, I'll just focus on, there are 5 or 7 books that I think everybody should read. They'll help you determine your way. I don't think any of the books that I've ever read have 100% of the answers. They might have partial answers to different things, and I'll give you 2 great examples. I am personally a believer in a lot of what Dave Ramsey talks about with his baby steps theory. However, there's a lot of stuff that Dave Ramsey believes in and that he focuses on that I don't believe in. He doesn't know my situation. And I'm going to do a podcast specifically comparing and contrasting his view with the Rich Dad, Poor Dad guy, Robert Kiyosaki. I believe in a lot of what Robert Kiyosaki promotes and preaches, but there's a lot that he says that I think is just salacious for clicks and different things like that. So you got to figure out between those two, because they're kind of opposite in a lot of different ways. One completely believes in debt. You should live your life to have debt. The other believes you should never have any debt. For me, the reality and the truth is in the middle. I have a feeling it might be that way for you too, but which side of the middle, that's up to you. So invest in your growth through those books, through free online content that you can find. Be prepared to put in the hard work and stay consistent with it. You've got to be prepared. It's not just going to happen. You can't say, I've got a great idea and then do nothing with it and expect anything to grow out of it. You got to define your plan, develop it, and work your plan, not somebody else's. So again, I'm not going to give you a plan. I'm going to tell you things that you can focus on, ways that I have embraced throughout my career and what's helped me to achieve the level of success that I'm at. And again, I don't want you guys to think that I'm not Elon Musk. I'm not Robert Kiyosaki or Dave Ramsey. I'm just a guy who started out with less than nothing. We had less than nothing and figured out a way to grow out of it and figured out a way to develop the right relationships and how to work hard and show up on time, because showing up on time is more than half the battle. So we're going to help you, or try to help you, work on your plan, not somebody else's. So between now and the next time we get together, why don't you make a list of 3 things that interest you as far as self-improvement go? And that comes back to writing it down. This is your homework, by the way. Make a list of 3 things that interest you and keep them there and be ready for what you might get out of the next podcast. This week, do one thing to invest in yourself, whether it's reading a new book or even just buy the book. You don't have to read it this week. Just buy it and put it in a place you have to look at it so that sooner or later you will. Take an online course. Do something that took extra effort so that you can show yourself that you're making progress. It's another way to help you believe in yourself. That's it for today. Thanks for listening to Beyond the Blueprint. If this episode does inspire you, share it with a friend, somebody who might need to hear this. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a review. It helps us reach more people just like you, and that's what our goal is at the end of the day. We want to build a community. We want you guys to help each other. Post a comment. Until then, we'll catch you next time. And remember, I believe in you. Take care, guys. Thanks so much for listening. Please follow our show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. And write us a review. We'd love to get your feedback. Beyond the Blueprint is sponsored by Galactic Performance Solutions. It's written and researched by yours truly, Gary Cornwell. Producing and editing is done by the team at Resonate Recordings. Until next time, remember, you do have the answers. You just have to make the effort to find them. I believe in you.